Hello, and welcome to tonight's event. My name is Pat Andriola, and I'm the president of the Freethought Society here at Tufts University. The Freethought Society is a student-run group which promotes free thought, which is the use of science and reason in all areas. Tonight we have come together to see two authorities in their respective fields discuss and debate the topic of God with the resolution, God is a man-made invention. Our first speaker, Daniel Dennett, is the Austin B. Fletcher Professor of Philosophy here at Tufts. Professor Dennett is a graduate of Harvard University who earned his PhD in philosophy from Oxford. A world-renowned philosopher and one of the four horsemen of atheism, Professor Dennett has explained his view on religion as a natural phenomenon in his best-selling book, Breaking the Spell. While giving the Richard Dawkins Award for 2007, the namesake of the award described Professor Dawkins as his intellectual hero. Tonight, Professor Dennett will be affirming the resolution. Dinesh D'Souza is the Robert and Karen Rishwain Fellow at the Hoover Institute at Stanford University. A Phi Beta Kappa graduate at Dartmouth College, D'Souza served as a policy advisor to Ronald Reagan and is now the author of numerous best-selling books, including his latest, What's So Great About Christianity? Mr. D'Souza, a noted conservative Christian, once commented that atheism is the real force behind the mass murders of history. UNC Wilmington professor Mike Adams called Dinesh D'Souza perhaps the greatest political mind of our time. Mr. D'Souza will be negating the resolution. I wanted to thank our generous sponsors, the Intercollegiate Studies Institute, the Center for Inquiry, the Secular Student Alliance, and ToTheSource.org. Also, I would like to thank Tufts University for helping organize the debate. Each has helped in making sure a great debate like tonight could take place. Finally, I ask you to please turn off all your cell phones and welcome tonight's moderator, Provost Jamshed Bharucha.
Good evening. This is really Tufts at its finest. We have in store for us a spectacular debate involving two of the most distinguished authors of our time. One of the great privileges of education, and certainly of being a student at Tufts, is that you get to witness something like this, and you have an excuse not to be writing your papers and studying for your exams. Both authors and speakers tonight really have had an impact that goes way beyond what is typical either of an author based at a university or a writer who's not. And we have one of each in this group. And they've come really from very, very different tracks. And so I think it is particularly interesting that we should see these two come together to debate. Let me tell you a little bit about the format. We will start with up to 25 minutes from each speaker. We will start with Dan Dennett, who will take the affirmative position, and then we will start. Then we will go to Dinesh D'Souza, who will take the negative, and then there will be a 5-minute rebuttal by each one, and then a second round of rebuttals. Okay, so really 4 sets of 5 minutes each, and I will time them. And following that, we will have questions from the audience. Each of the debaters will have an opportunity to comment on each question. And I would urge you, as you plan your questions, to make sure that, number one, they are indeed questions, and number two, that they are very brief. And I can assure you that our debaters as well will try to be brief in their responses so we can get as many questions in as we can. So after the Q&A, which we will try to end around 9. If it spills over a little bit and people are still, steamed up and ready to go, we might go a little bit beyond. The speakers are willing to do that, but not too much beyond 9 o'clock. There will be a book signing outside, and one of our student organizers will be up here to make some closing remarks. I want to finally close by congratulating our students for really organizing this event. Things like this are absolutely the best if they're by students, for students. So thank you all to the students. And now let's begin with Dan Dennett.
I need to push some button here.
Might have to use this now.
I'll get out of the way.
There we go.
And this is all right.
Okay. Everybody can hear? Thanks very much, Jamshed. I'm delighted to be here. The topic is God, a human invention was not my choice of topic. This was proposed actually by Dinesh, and I'm going along with it. And I'll say a little bit more about what I was going to have as my topic, because as he said in his proposal to me, we can do both topics at once. First, let's just get a few facts on the table so that we have something properly to reason about. Here you see a map of the world, and it just shows, this is, I suppose, somewhat out of date. It shows the world's religions, color-coded, so Islam is in green, and Buddhism is in purple, Hinduism is in brown, Christianity is in yellow. And according to the World Christian Encyclopedia, which is really the sort of authoritative book about this, the only religion that's growing today of these major categories is Islam. And it's growing almost entirely by a differential birth rate, not by conversion in. I know there's a sense out there that say Christianity must be booming, must be growing too, but there's really no evidence of that. For instance, the Southern Baptists now are baptizing about the same number they were back in the 50s each year. There's really no change in membership. And there was a nice piece in the New York Times just about a year ago, October 2006, about the National Association of Evangelicals, which had a study. They were really worried that youth were falling away from the evangelical churches at a great rate, quoting one of them. If current trends continue, only 4% of teenagers will be Bible-believing Christians as adults. So I think you should temper your hunch that religions are growing at a great rate in this country. What they are doing, I think, is growing louder. But not necessarily growing in numbers. They're becoming more vocal, more aggressive, more obvious in many ways. Another point that's often made is that you'll notice on this map there's no difference shown between the United States Christianity and Europe as a Christian. This is a very sort of rough cast map. And one of the points that people always make is how much more religious the United States is than, say, Western Europe. And this is true, and one might wonder why. Maybe Dinesh will want to speak about that later, but there's one set of facts that I think everybody should have in front of them, and that is that, let's talk family values for just a minute. If you compare the United States with Western Europe, the homicide rate is much higher here than there. The sexually transmitted disease rate, much higher here than there. Teen pregnancy rate, higher here than in Europe. Also, abortion rates, higher here than in Europe. So this vision of the godless, secularized Europe being a place where family values are in deep trouble seems to be exactly wrong. Now, maybe we're more religious because we have to be, because we're such sinners, but there might be other explanations of that. Now, this is a map which shows the rough breakdown of different religions. You'll see that Christianity, which includes all kinds of Christians, is by far the largest percentage of the world's religion. But notice that Islam is only slightly more than the non-religious. And there are roughly twice as many non-religious, more than twice as many, 3 times as many as Buddhists. And in fact, the group that's growing the fastest in the world is not Islam, it's the non-religious. Now, I like facts like this, and I think everybody should know them because there's some surprises. I think probably some of these already are facts that you didn't have under your belt. And I've made a proposal, and this is what we were going to debate about, what I propose that we debate about. My proposal for what I'm calling the 4th R, there's reading, writing, arithmetic, and I've actually proposed a compulsory curriculum on world religions for all schools. So here's my proposal, that education on world religion for all our children in public and private schools, and for homeschooling